Hey, what's up, everyone? All right. Happy Friday, everyone. Lots of new faces and names. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. And I think we're good to go. Let me open up the agenda real quick. While I'm doing that, maybe we can start from a couple of introductions from people that were not active before. Utsav.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm a product designer from Toronto. So I've been in this community for a while, but I didn't see too much like action in design. So I was like kind of sliding on the side. Then I saw this in my calendar. I was like, okay, there's some exciting design things happening, and let's see if I can contribute going forward. So yeah, like happy to be in the community. Thanks for doing all this.
Nice. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining in. And I totally resonate with, the that fact that we were kind of like exploring what to do. And finally, we have some structured approach and even some mock-ups, user stories and things like that. So it's about time to get, such amazing people like you to join us and actually proceed with some structured product design.
Super excited.
Cool. So I'll start with the first item on the agenda, which is discussing the progress with the use cases document. So last week, we actually had a call with epidemiologist Andre, and he gave us a couple of examples of very, very specific use cases of how he would like to use the literature review tool. And one of them was let me see. Let me actually share my screen real quick. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? I assume so. All right. So he was wondering about specific questions when it relates to hydroxychloroquine, and for example, what is the frequency of heart rate problems with similar demographics, comorbidities, but without hydroxychloroquine treatment? So kind of a very, very specific query that I believe it's possible to answer with our existing infrastructure. It's just a matter of figuring out how to present that user interface to tailor to these very specific queries. Because, this is kind of the unstructured question, right? But essentially we need to break it apart into some controls or a search bar or the things that we mentioned in terms of the actual vocabulary, the medical vocabulary. And when it comes to our current proof of concept, let me open that real quick. When it comes to the current proof of concept, we kind of can explore some of these things, but not to the level of specificity that epidemiologists need. And obviously the nature of the current proof of concept is just kind of a giant dashboard of different things jammed together. So like we can actually search for specific things that he mentioned, like heart rhythm problems. Let's see, heart rhythm, and see what the output is. I assume there's going to be like 500 articles or something on this topic. Interesting. So it actually returned blank. Well, we can try heart issues.
It should be 2 S's and 1 U.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Good catch. Yeah, I assume the current proof of concept is overloaded with the data, and it's actually quite slow. So let's assume that this works, right? The demo effect is in place right here. But assuming that it works, there's going to be a way for us to navigate the actual. Let me open the current UI UX wireframes that Yuan created, and assume that when the person types in heart rhythm problems or something like that, we would showcase a thing from the actual ontologies, actual vocabularies, the dictionaries of different things. I assume we can reuse the same ontology that Lion Project uses. Let's see what it shows for the heart rhythm. Yeah, see. So we can reuse the same dictionaries and in a way explore the same graph of relationships, because essentially what this gives us is all the interconnectivity of similar things. And what we can do in our literature review tool is actually, oh, it works. Yeah, so you can see that it shows all kinds of entities recognized from these scientific papers, like organ, disease, some part of gene, something, then the actual entities like heart association and stuff like that. So what we can do is at least structure this kind of the user journey that could be very specific to specific use case. So what I mean by that is taking this use case, the frequency of heart rhythm problems with similar demographics, comorbidities, but without hydroxychloroquine treatments, and applying it to the current mockups. So instead of having placeholders in here, we would use an actual input, and that way we can present this user journey to epidemiologist and just ask him, does it make sense? Like, is this how you would expect it to work? Assuming that, the search results will be just dummy data, but at least we can present him with some way to interact with the system and get his feedback on it. What do you guys think?
Sorry, I think that would be a good step to take further, because so I haven't gotten a chance to, sorry, if everyone doesn't know me, my name is Nicole. I'm focusing on user research here in this team. And can everyone hear me well?
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, I think that would be a good step to take, like just taking one of the really specific use cases, like in the use case doc, and then just applying that into like the current wireframes we have, and just sort of like reflecting that that the user flow for that certain use case. And I also wanted to add so I haven't really focused on the use case doc in a while, but I've been shifting the focus to reviewing the calls that we have so far and taking notes from them and putting them on the mirror board that the UX team is working on. And So I was going to suggest, the literature review tool that we currently have, like the current demo, I think it would be super helpful if we were able to get on calls with certain epidemiology people, such as Andre, and just seeing them perform a recorded demo on how they would use these tools. Because I was reviewing that, I think it was on July 22nd, that call with Andre where he did a demo using, I think, the Ryan tool for data extraction. And that was super helpful because we were able to see like the certain steps that he needed to do on the platform to perform his user goal of extracting data. And I was also able to take notes of the certain pain points he may have had. And also it basically allowed us to see his thought process. So I think it would be super helpful if we were able to do that for like in the future with like future epidemiology people, just seeing how they you would use our current like literature review team, and also like applying that use case onto like the current wireframes that we have on Figma. That's just like my opinion on like how, at least for like the UX team, on like how we should move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The only caveat I would say is the fact that the current proof of concept is very limited in terms of interactivity. And I think we should almost create this Frankenstein of, demos where a person goes into different tools and kind of shows how he would solve the same use case with different tools,
Right.
including ours. But yeah, I love the idea. Let's aim to schedule a call with Andre, and maybe we can get a couple more epidemiologists. I actually prepared a list of people on LinkedIn that we can reach out to. Some of them are like high-profile epidemiologists working at like CDC and National Institute of Health, but some of them are more down-to-earth people. So we can just shoot out 100 invites and see who comes.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be a good step to do. Because in the use case document, we have, the way I structured it is so that, so we have certain use cases in the list, and then we also have certain actors. And then I separated the user flows for each of them so that, like one user flow is how a certain researcher would perform this use case on our current like literature review demo, and then also how would they do it online, and also how they would do it on PubMed. So if we're able to get on calls with them and just see them like you said, do like a whole Frankenstein thing of them just doing demos on these different tools, that would be super helpful. Because I think in terms of the next steps for the UX team, I think that would be a good thing to do, just getting all these demos and then us just reviewing these demos and taking notes of them, taking notes of any pain points, because that would help us a lot in the long run in terms of figuring out the wireframes and the whole like user interface structure.
Totally agree. And by the way, I just realized that you guys were having an active, work on this board. So great job with this. I'll send a link in Slack so that other people can explore this. But a great job in terms of pulling the videos and kind of, I assume, just like summarizing things.
Right. Yeah. So this sort of thing that I did specifically for that demo with Ryan, with Andre on the Ryan tool, and also Coronawhy. But yeah, so this sort of thing is basically what I was suggesting that the UX team should do, or at least focus on, so that we can kind of get on the same page and get a better understanding of our users. Which is why I'm suggesting, like, if we were able to get like a couple of demos with other people on using the literature review tool and also the PubMed and Lion, that would be super helpful. If we were able to do like this sort of note taking, like extracting all the different steps and also timestamps and pain points, stuff like that, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because I remember that part of the video when he opened the system and just doesn't know where to start. And I think I know why that happened, because that tool is very generalized, and there's actually no like inquiry to the user, like, hey, like who you are and like why are you here, because that alone guides the user experience and the actual purpose of using the tool.
Right. yeah, like that sort of thing where he specifically like stated like I don't really see where to start. That in a way that's a bad thing, but in terms of the users, understanding the user, that's also a really good thing because we can sort of like that's an example of a pain point right there. Yeah, and then this is just sort of like a plan that me and Tyler kind of like put out, but it's still, I made a note over here that it's still tentative because it's, depending on like where we are in the process. But
this is great.
Yeah.
By the
I
way,
think Tyler was the one who made these questions right here.
we should bridge this with some of the stuff that that me, Serge, and Maya started drafting, because we basically started ideating like a pitch deck, for people to better understand what we're creating. So just like 10 slides, very easy to understand if we would send this on LinkedIn as an attachment or something like that. So there are some use cases that we can explore. Some are more intuitive than others, but for example, the pharma R&D, drug launch preparations and market research is basically completely unknown to me, but Serge and Andre have some experience with it, and they can help advise on those. But each of these use cases I'm almost sure will require separate type of UX. So it's a question for us internally, like what do we want to tackle first, and how hard will it be to tackle each of these use cases? Because essentially, since we're still operating in this volunteer environment, we operate under limited resources. So we need to make sure that we're creating something with the most impact, that is the easiest to create. Well, the easiest in terms of the resources and resource allocation, and what do we actually have infrastructure to do? Because even if we're talking about the pharma use cases, I believe we'll have to integrate some other sources of data too, beyond just COVID-19 data set of scientific papers. So there's value proposition for public health epidemiology, and then there is a the second word, pharmacoepidemiology, tongue twister. And then there is users who's going to use it day to day. So epidemiologists, pharmacoepidemiologists, drug launch excellence teams, market research teams. Then there is some competitive landscape on the existing tools. Then there is a list of infectious disease epidemiologists just internally. And then there is clients, because obviously someone has to support this infrastructure in the future. So we're just ideating who would be the client that would be donating or paying subscriptions or things like that. So be it public health agencies, universities, or commercial pharmaceutical companies, or healthcare providers. I think healthcare providers is a tough one, so we can just remove this one for now and focus on these three. And yeah, I think what we really need to do is get some more feedback from epidemiologists, formalize use cases, get them on calls. If you, Nicole, and Tyler can run these calls, it would be amazing. Utsav, I forgot your name, but it will be also amazing to have you join these if you have time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I would say UN, well, I don't know, it depends on her availability, of course, but it'll also be great if she can too, since I think you're mainly working on the wireframe. So at least for me,
I would be really happy to join.
Yeah,
I'll be really happy to join, because I feel like when I'm working on the wireframes, I practically cannot do anything unless there are some concrete use cases come up. So I feel like it would be a better use of my time as well to just join in the user research as well.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. So we talked through the first items on the agenda. Then there is a Trello board that I wanted to bring the attention to. If you're not able to join it, just let us know. I sent the public link to join it. But basically, we're trying to create a shared space where we can see which things are happening and who does what and who is planning to do what. So just a simple to do, doing, done, and later. And yeah, it actually should be considered as a general board. So both like things, development, UI, user research would be kind of flowing through here. But again, this is just a temporary structure for us to get things started. How many of you have worked with Trello, by the way?
I'm familiar with Trello. I mean, I've only started recently using it a lot lately, but I've used it before.
Yeah, I just started to use it as well.
Cool. So we have Lasia that was planning to join and help us with Trello management, basically, and making sure that everyone has everything that they need to proceed with their tasks. I'll reach out to her to see what's her current availability. Then the next step is formulating kind of the high-level roadmap for the next 4 weeks. I think we're still kind of not ready to formulate that roadmap until we have a couple more epidemiologists join us and give some more concrete feedback on the use cases. But once we do that, I feel that we'll be able to create that roadmap. Then discuss progress on needed people and how to find them. I think we actually have plenty of people now in terms of UI UX. We just need to get more epidemiologists to guide us. And then the last piece, well, the piece that I wanted to discuss, and it's great that you, Alex, are here, is more technical, because essentially we're kind of drafting the user-facing side of things right now, but there's also an underlying tech infrastructure to support all of these use cases. And I know that your team worked primarily on named entity recognition and things like sample size and other extractions. But I was wondering if you would be willing to kind of not lead, because that sounds like too much of a commitment, but like start organizing all things tech when it comes to the infrastructure to support the use cases.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious. I mean, are Slava and Anton running the back end on this, or does that need to be involved? Like what?
Yeah, so essentially the structure is that Slava is providing that high-level infrastructure. So basically we need to formulate the specific needs to him. Like, hey, Slava, we need like named entity recognition, something, or we need an API call to get all the collections from specific countries, or we need an API call to get all the dictionaries or things like that. Anton is here on the call. Anton?
Yeah, so I could quickly kind of chime in, Alex. Essentially, what will help us from this horizontal infrastructure team is just, again, having a contact person who knows what's up and exactly, for example, like as Arthur pointed out, like if the vertical team can say, like, you know, here is our name entity recognition type of things that we want, and now we need to run it on a scale, yada yada. We need that type of API point to access it. Then we have something to work in from this horizontal kind of things. Otherwise, it's kind of like hard to navigate it, and it's usually 3-4 people trying to coordinate all in DMs, and it like, you know, it get lost in all of those conversations that we already had, right, Alex? Remember, like, for example, with the recent example of AWS and where to put PDF scans, etc. So we're just trying to eliminate this and have a central location as this team literature review tool is concerned.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to contribute where I can. I mean, just like everybody else, I have maybe another project or two aside from this, but yeah.
Yeah, primarily if you have 15 minutes to just jump in a channel and kind of understand what's happening in terms of use cases and figure out like what are the missing pieces from the tech infrastructure to support it. I think just like 10, 15 minutes per day would be best.
Yeah, I definitely have that. Yeah, and I can probably do a little bit more. So
Perfect.
sounds good.
All right. And the last piece on the agenda is discussing the leadership structure, team structure, funding, and sustainability. So obviously we're creating something that makes sense. Like we wouldn't have a buy-in from epidemiologists and all kinds of researchers willing to share and promote the tool. We just need to figure out a more viable way for all of us to contribute more of our time. And we've applied to that FAST grants application, yet to receive an answer. We applied for 170,000 grant that is supposed to be a fast process, and we should get an answer in 2 weeks. But we're also figuring out what are other grants, other opportunities of funding, be it philanthropic or potential commercial vehicles that are interested in this tool existing and can potentially support us financially in terms of infrastructure, also contributors, and covering some of the time that we as a team contribute, and just treating everyone as people that would be contributing for this, let's call it startup, that is being baked out of the public good volunteer environment. Because essentially we all understand that we cannot focus like 40 hours per week on it unless it's a real thing. And we still have yet to define what this real thing is. But the key piece here is just figuring out the funding opportunities, where they exist, how they will route to us, and making sure that the use cases make sense, because that's essentially what will bring the most clarity to investors, funders, and all the donors that will be willing to help us make this happen.
One kind of idea maybe I had, maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, is maybe forming like an actual like focus group instead of maybe inviting like one epidemiologist at a time, maybe just inviting like, I don't know, like 5 of them. That way, we're able to get feedback a little bit faster and kind of like iterate on that. And then we could even do like A/B testing. And create like one interface based on some of the feedback we got from a group, and then like our original interface, and just asking people, which interface is easier for your workflow. Obviously whatever we build, it's probably not going to work amazing for everyone, but we want to get it as close to something that is easy for people. And then another thing, in kind of forming these focus groups, maybe on like LinkedIn or something, we could formulate sort of like a team sort of LinkedIn message that we can share out with our network, saying, Friday at this time, we're going to have a focus group for like epidemiologists, send us your email address, if you're interested, kind of in joining, and then we can get a real massive list, of people in the field.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Can someone help with formulating a message?
I'll definitely help. There's like someone else who could work with me.
Cool. I can help in terms of like structuring the value proposition. Tyler, maybe you can help too.
Yeah, sorry, I just realised my mic's on muted. Yeah, I could have a look at it. I think if we're going to have that kind of conversation, having an epidemiologist in that conversation. I mean, obviously we can't focus it at everyone, but it's about trying to get the right kind of messaging. Because I've said it before, but it's a nice idea to try and get a handful of epidemiologists in the room together. But we're going to have to accept that a lot of epidemiologists are exceptionally busy right now, and asynchronous knowledge transfer is going to be more effective in the speed of how we're going to get a response. Yes, it would be nice to get 5 people in a room and get to interview them. Of getting,
you're cutting off. I think the mic.
The practicality of recruiting people to get them the practicality of recruiting people who are already very busy, and to not only be recruited and be available one-on-one, but recruited as a group. I mean, there's a lot of basically every time you add complexity to a problem, the more difficult it is to achieve. And I think trying to get 5 very busy people in one space is not 5 times harder than getting one. It's 50 times harder.
We can try.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't try. I'm not saying I'm absolutely, moonshots and trying stuff is perfectly fine. But we need to have like realistic goals and realistic achievability. 2 at a time is nice. I mean, user interviews are perfectly doable one-on-one. We just need to. We're still in the process of trying to formulate some thoughts on that. And I've been really busy with like house moving stuff, so I've not really had a lot of it for anything at the moment. It's really annoying me because I've been wanting to go through calls and trying to dig out all the calls that talk about this sort of stuff with like timestamps, so we can get all the UX team to go through it and pull all the notes from the large collection of information we've already gathered in calls. But I keep meaning to do it, and every time I mean to do it, my brain's not in it, or I'm just caught up doing other things. So it's something that I'm very much aware of, trying to get more information, and we need to try and formulate more data and more information, because otherwise we're just making it up on our own, and that's no use at all.
I agree that it's probably it might be hard to get everyone in the room, but I feel like worst case scenario, we're casting like a wide net, and we'll have a lot of names of interested epidemiologists that we might be able to interview one-on-one as well.
Yeah, I think somebody's already scraped, is it LinkedIn or the internet in general, and we've found hundreds and hundreds of people who describe themselves as epidemiologists. So it's not that we don't have a lot of candidates, but we need to try and make sure we reach out to them candidates and we don't burn them. We need to make sure that first contact is as good as it can be. And to do that, we've got to not only have really good message and a really good point, but also enough to make them interested. I know I'm not saying we don't have enough now, but it needs to make sure it lands right, because otherwise you burn that bridge and then their network gets poisoned by the idea of something being done badly. And I'm imagining the epidemiologist community is pretty small, so if something burns, it could burn pretty broad, and it could damage a lot of positive connections that we could build by just not doing it right the first time. So it's one of them things that we need to be careful about when we do that. We don't want to just spam hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of potentially very, very specialist, very, very busy people with something that we're not the only people out there doing things like this with projects and open sources. Yeah, we're not the only group.
So I propose, since we've found like 1,000 people, let's start shooting messages to like 10 and see what's the response.
We're going to be Are we going to A/B test off of an epidemiologist list and see which ones get?
Yeah. First of all, for A/B testing all of this stuff, we need to be ready to do this, right? We need to be in the position of quickly iterating the interfaces, etc., which at this point we could do, but it's because we have like Power BI, we have power of Mike Honey, working on this, etc. But now, since we already on this rails of building mockups, etc., I think, if we need to push this idea forward, get the right team that could iterate not only in Power BI in terms of interface, but web app development. And at that point, we could definitely ramp up and scale this outreach through cold emails list, etc., when you have something to show, right? And it's not like prototypes. Yeah. It's actually already just, people should get this feeling that it's 3-4 small steps, incremental steps from now, it's already like finished product, right? Not
and we're not even at that stage. The part of the problem is our method of agile is attacking multiple parts of the research at the same time, and we've been formulating this as an idea long before we had an epidemiologist to tell us that it was a good idea. So we've been playing with different parts of it, and obviously we're trying to be as streamlined and agile as possible, but I agree that we definitely need to have a little bit something more concrete before we start asking big groups of people to join in. If we can find half a dozen people who we can actually really drill down and spend an hour with them each, or an hour with them having a conversation where we talk about really what they do in their job, how they use the tools that they've got already. We really need to understand what already exists in the space, because then we can understand how the system already works and what people already do and how we can improve that. And we understand parts of it. We understand that spreadsheets exist and people use spreadsheets for pulling data out of it. We understand that researchers do that kind of thing. There's lots of manual stuff. We found a few things from the call recently with
but to wrap it up on a positive note, I think Cameron's proposition is super awesome. And in fact, we even like in this environment that Tyler just described, we already had like an experiment run that was successful, right? We already talked with Rockefeller University folks. It was a group of like 5+ people, I think. And they, Arthur, how many calls did we have with them? Like 3 or something, that were essentially this full sessions of iterating like what needs to be built, etc. So we could definitely do this.
Yeah, their calls are watched. They're ones that we need to get in there and dig out some more details. But they are all researchers, not epidemiologists. Yeah. And there's lots to be learned from researchers generally, but epidemiologists specifically we need to learn from too.
No, but my point is that this proposition is definitely like workable, because at that point of time of reaching out to Rockefeller University for some other case, it was still we were in the same shoes. Like we have nothing, we're discovering what we want to do in which direction, and people were receptive to jump on call.
We're still in discovery phase in some elements. We're still trying to discover and understand the problem. We need to kind of have a few more people to do it. So we need to just kind of craft it in a way that we explain that we are still trying to discover and understand it, and that will take a little bit more time rather than be like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Try.
And again, to do it like in this kind of like this scenario, we need to be ready to kind of, here's like ball on our side. We give it ball to the like focus group. They tell us, oh, the ball is squared. We need like a round one. We hop it on our end. We'll quickly make it round, push it back, and etc. It should be like in this type of scenario, very quickly.
Hot potato
environment. Yes, hot potato style.
Cool.
I mean, there's lots of like user heuristics we can use as reference points, but it is about the specifics of the problem we need to really understand, and the tools that already exist, so we can take the best of what already exists. And yeah, I need to spend some time with it, but I've not had a lot of time right now.
Cool. All right. I think we're good. I think we have lots of action items in here. I'm gonna draft a message and send it to Slack channel, and I'll just attempt to start shooting these out to LinkedIn epidemiology people, and let's see what happens. And then we can organize a couple more calls.
What are you going to be sending out?
Just a message that we're going to craft.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool. So the next steps are making sure that we have very specific use cases, jumping on calls with epidemiologists, better understanding the use case, be it for public health or for pharmacological
epidemiologists.
Yes. And yeah, sounds good. And let's have a separate sync with Anton, Alex, maybe Slava in terms of technology needs. Not sure I'll be able to do that today, but maybe sometime this weekend if you guys are available.
I'm available.
Yeah, I can do that. Sunday's hard for me, but otherwise I'm good.
Cool. Let's try tomorrow. All right. Sounds good, everyone. And thanks for jumping on a call. Happy Friday, and have a great rest of your day.
Good. See you later, guys. Thanks. Sorry I'm late, but thanks for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.